I said I wanted to ask you about board building. What's your preferred construction type? Do you traditionally use PU? Okay. Got it.
Poly's fun. Poly cuts clean, sand's nice. The sad thing is it's not light enough and it's not strong enough. So if you're there's a certain size board, I think that especially as the boards get bigger, that's where polys really fail because they weigh too much. You can't even pick the damn thing up. Where you get a 1 pound EPS foam, but it becomes a ping pong ball on water. The core weighs nothing. It's a weightless core. They can't pour them like that and still maintain strength. It's a war between durability and I've been accused of by customers that I build self obsolescence in my boards, and I'm going, really? You think I sit around going, if this guy's board breaks in half, I can make another one. No, come on.
Yeah.
You don't think like that. What they want is the lightest board they can get that works the best. But what they don't want is for anything to go wrong.
Yeah.
One guy broke his board in half, and he comes running in the shop. He's got the two halves, and I know where he's going with this, right? This is when you've been in retail too long. This is a sign that you've been there too long. He runs in, he goes, hey, man, this board broke in half. I go, no problem. You got the 50-50 guarantee. And he goes, what is that? And I go, you get to keep both halves. And he tried not to laugh, but it made him laugh.
Yeah.
And I said, dude, I've broke 8 or 10 boards. Jeff Kramer, the air doing the air, he broke 82 boards at my expense.
82.
He's got. I don't think he has the world record. I think he did for a while, but especially when we were making weightless longboards, because we were using Clark Foam 95S blanks, my favorite plug, as you know. Jeff Kramer's boards came out of that, and we'd use ultralight blanks, and we would use all 4 ounce, no gloss, no polish.
Wow.
They break.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, for the pros, it makes sense. You want to build them.
Yeah. I'd ask people, if you were going to run a marathon, would you use Army boots or the lightest weight running shoes possible?
Yeah.
Now the question is, how many marathons would you run with those shoes? 1, because you want as much spring as you can get out of your shoe.
Yeah.
That's how that works.
Can I ask you about Gordon Clark on air? I know we had the conversation off air, but he's such a mythical figure in the surf world, And I feel like some of those stories actually now for modern surfers who just discovered it since COVID, let's say, they probably have no idea who he even was. But you're somebody who worked directly with him for a very long period of time.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on, are you a fan? I think he gets maligned a lot for being just kind of like a really hard ass businessman. And so people, but then I hear people speak very glowingly about him as well and respectfully. What are your thoughts on Gordon?
Well, first of all, his name's Grubby.
For a reason.
He invented butt lagging with his pants down like that, with his crack hanging out.
I did not know that.
Oh, yeah, he invented that. I think the first time I ever saw, other than a plumber bending over, he wore his pants like that.
Did he really?
Oh, yeah, he's a mess. He's a complete mess. He's a genius, and Einstein couldn't remember to tie his shoes. Okay, so there's a side of Gordon that I ultimately respect, and there's a side of him that's not a good person. He was kind of mean a little bit to other people, and in business he was hardcore. If you bought other blanks, he would stop shipping you blanks and stuff like that. That's hardcore. Instead of just may the best man win, no, I'm going to crush you. So when he
fully believed he was the best man though too, right?
Oh, he was.
So he knew, like, hey, stick with me, you'll get the best blank.
He had the best shape.
I also want to get rich doing it.
I don't know if it's money driven or what. I think it's more he hated famous people for some reason.
That's an interesting detail.
Yeah, he really did. He had a real thing about that.
Because he keeps a low profile.
So of the 11 or 12 plugs that I designed for Clark Foam was shipped around the world with my name on it, I got paid 10 free blanks. I mean, can you get a lower pay than that?
10 free blanks a year, a day, a week? 10.
Yeah, 10.
Total.
Give him the blank. And by the way, I'm going to brag right now because I went and saw Gordon on his 52,000 acre ranch up in Oregon. And I pulled up. he sat in my motorhome. He looked me right in the eye. He goes, I got to tell you something. He goes, you're the only guy that literally made a perfect plug mathematically. We scanned it, and he says it literally was perfect, 100%. He goes, you're the only guy of Rusty and every other shaper that shaped all those blanks and plugs. Mine was perfect. The way I did it was I made an electronic level that had pods on it, and I gridded and put dots all over the plug that I shaped. So I would set those. It's kind of like a shaping machine, because the shaping machine has over this left number is 235702. This one's 235702. They match. It's a butterfly image, right? So I did that with a level with electronics so that I could move this and set it. I put it on level racks, level the deck, level the bottom, and block. Then I would glass it. Then I'd go back over the whole thing with a lot of resin on it. Blocks. Oh, this is 0.012 too high. Zip, zip, zip. But I was really proud. I didn't know this. This is only, a
couple of years ago.
2 years ago. He told me this and said, yeah, you made a perfect plug.
Meaning it was perfectly symmetrical.
Yeah, it doesn't mean it's a good one.
But it's mathematically symmetrical on the left and the right.
That's right.
Yeah, fascinating.
Kind of proud of that.
Yeah, it's important.
So I thought it out, and then I figured out a right way to do it. And most people, I'm glad you're doing this, by the way, because my history and my background of everything that I've been involved in, most people think, oh, he's a shaper, surfer, artist guy. They don't know about the future fin box. They don't know the 2+1 fin setup or all these different things. I mean, wakeboards, snowboards, and all this crap I've been messing with my whole life. I love inventions, creations, and designs. Just love that.
Nobody knew you were a carny until now.
I know, and I'm kind of proud of that. I didn't even tell you the part where the big giant bodybuilder chased me.
No.
Yeah. My friend put a 38 to his head.
Really? What was he chasing you about?
He kind of wanted me.
Oh.
I was going to the bathroom.
Really?
Yeah.
Carny life is dangerous, man. Who knew? I thought it just smelled
This guy
bad.
was 220 pounds. I was 135 pounds or 40.
Yikes.
And this guy came, I'm 5'8", right? I was skinny. Luckily, I could run really fast.
Yeah.
And he chased me, and I ran into the truck, and I go, Tom, there's a guy. I mean, I'm screaming, and he reaches under the bed. I didn't even know he had a 38. And the guy opened the door, and he put it right to his head, and the guy literally did the pee-pee dance. His legs were going, but he couldn't. He was frozen. He couldn't run.
Wow.
It was heavy.
That's crazy.
That's a good carny story. I got a few others: the 8-legged goat, the 2-headed cow.
Wow. We'll do a whole carny podcast in the future. So back to Gordon Clark. Another thing that people probably don't know about him is and as influential as he was in the surf world and what he did there, apparently he's done the same thing raising sheep in Oregon.
Yeah.
And came up there, that's what he did in, quote, retirement, but is either revolutionized the way that it was being done prior or just did it better than anybody who's ever done it prior.
He told me straight up, he says, I'm more proud of what I've done up here than anything I did with blanks.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
And I was like, wow, that's impressive, because he literally owned. I still think his blanks are better than any ever made. But he had temperature controls. I don't think he unveiled everything what he was doing, and maybe the chemicals aren't as good. I don't know. They don't cut as good as his did. And maybe his came fresher to me.
Maybe.
Like a fresh donut or something.
From VG's. Well, I heard just this past couple of weeks that Lopez is actually writing an article on Gordon that will be in the Surfer's Journal in the next few months. That's like 12 pages long. So pretty comprehensive, or can't be comprehensive, but in depth. And they're tight friends, and they still are to this day.
Yeah.
So I think that would be an interesting read.
Well, there's perspectives of people who know people, right?
Yeah, that helps.
There's a big difference between somebody who has abused the hell out of you and you know them, or somebody who's gifted you, okay? There's people, without the mentors that I had in my life, I would never be sitting in this beautiful place where I live, because those are the people that pull you out of the dirt, okay? They're the people that, for no personal gain, want to see you do well. And that's a mentor. It's kind of pay it forward. and I've helped a lot of people. A guy walked in my shop, and he was in Iraq, and a guy threw dynamite and blew all his fingers off, okay? And his hand was just a nub. And he was buying surf stuff. And I said, hey, man, you surf? And he goes, yeah. And I said, how's paddling? He goes, not that bad. I said, do you wear a glove or anything? He goes, no. I go, why not? And then he says, well, I never thought of it. And I said, when you paddle out, do you end up back at the beach? I had to make that joke.
Yeah.
I couldn't resist. And he busted up. Now, he looked exactly like Lieutenant Dan from Forrest Gump. He looks exactly the same. I'm not kidding. In fact, he was at my shop yesterday. He's from Texas. And I said, come back in 3 days. I'm going to make something for you. Went down. I have a workshop. My art studio's under this building. And I took a template and made a hand and put Velcro around this part of his hand and then put a web glove over that with a strapped here. And he comes in. I said, come back in 3 days. He walks in, and I go, hey, good to see you. And I put the glove on, and I handed the fake hand. And he goes, no way. And he freaked out. So he went down the beach, calls me back, and goes, you're a genius. Oh, my God, it's day and night difference. And he's using it in triathlons. He's doing.
Wow.
And he goes, it's better than anything. And then he got a prosthetic, I don't know, $5,000 fake hand. Looked like an ice cream scooper. It was horrible. He goes, this thing's junk. He goes, you should mass produce these. I go, how many people have the injury you have?
Right.
Hard to make money doing it. But, but that's kind of a feel good, pay it forward thing.
You brought up mentors. Who is Jimmy Buffett to you?
Oh, I just did a recording of all my stories about Jimmy Buffett. And there's, I think, 13 stories we did about him. My favorite one is when he called me up and he goes, hey, the phone rings and I'm at my shop and I hear over the loudspeaker, it says, Bill Stewart, Jimmy Buffett, line 2, Jimmy Buffett, line 2. And I go, yeah, right, Nixon's on line 3, right? Come on. Pick up the phone. I go, hello. I go, and he goes, hey, this is Jimmy Buffett. And I go, hey, this is Bill Stewart. I go, really? You're Jimmy Buffett? He goes, absolutely. And I go, cool. I said, what's up? And he goes, I want to get a surfboard that goes into 2 parts. Suitcase board, they called them in the 60s. Do you know about that?
No.
They made a surfboard that because they wouldn't put them on airplanes, so you couldn't fly to Hawaii with a full-size surfboard. So I think it was Maury or somebody like Maury Pope. I think he's the one that started that. Hobie made one that went into 2 parts.
Okay.
They rode terrible. They had pipes inside of them. The flex, there was just, they were awful. He goes, I want to get one of those for my airplane. And I go, you know those ride like crap. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, dude, they got pipes and stuff in them. They're crap. It's not a good surfboard. And he goes, well, geez, man. He goes, my roadies will do anything I want. And I go, you know I'm not one of your roadies, right? And he busts up laughing. He thought that was funny as hell because I gave him a little crap, right? He goes, what do you think I should do? I said, why don't you buy a bigger plane? And that's when he went and got the Albatross.
Really? So he took the advice?
Yes.
Oh, my gosh.
That's in his book. He put my name in one of his songs at the end of the song, Mexico. I got my Billy Stewart longboard. And my mailman comes up. He goes, your name's in a Buffett CD. I go, no, it's not. He goes, no, it's... You can barely hear it at the end. He mumbles it.
Well, it's a cover of the James Taylor song, right?
It's called Mexico. It's the
but
song
it's the James
Mexico.
Taylor song, I think.
I don't know.
Oh, okay. And then at the end, he vamps a little bit, and I think that might be...
he mumbles a bunch of stuff, but I got my Billy Stewart lump. I stayed in his house. I said, I want to go to the Keys. He goes, you can use my house if you want. And I said, really? So I ended up going down, staying in his house. Of course, the clock was frozen at 5 o'clock.
Of course.
And he's just so I flew in his airplane over Irvine Meadows. He'd brought the plane here, and I got in the airplane, me and my wife, and he had one of those double doors that opens up. So I'm hanging out of the door, and it's kind of like surfing because when the plane banks, the centrifugal force keeps you from like falling out, right? And so I'm waving out the door. I don't even like airplanes, but this was kind of cool, you know? So and there's 20,000 people at Irvine Meadows, and we're circling around like this, and people are screaming, waving. They think I'm Jimmy Buffett.
He was coming to play that show?
He's in backstage.
Oh, okay.
And I'm overhead, flying around, and the crowd went nuts.
That's
right?
amazing.
It's really cool. But I've surfed with him in Montauk, New York, and went to his house in New York, had dinner with him, and we have similar friends that know him for a long time, and Corb Donahue, who worked for me, he died of cancer, and to let you know the value and the beauty of Jimmy Buffett, when Corb died, they were scheduling a Volkswagen van trip. Well, Corb got too sick, and Jimmy came in. I got him a van, and he rented it from my neighbor, an old Volkswagen. He wanted to cruise the coast in a Volkswagen because it's a flashback of his childhood, right? Mm. And him and Corb were going to do this. Well, Corb died. Well, Corb initiated all of his tour from the very first tour he ever did. Corb was in the music business. And Corb ended up broke and kind of drank too much, and sweet guy, really good guy. He died. Jimmy gets in his airplane in Texas, flies all the way to Orange County, rents a car, shows up at San Onofre in the rain and the wind. They set up the little speakers, and he sang a song, took the ashes, waded out in the freezing cold water, windy and rainy, poured Corb's ashes into the ocean. Then he went back to, it makes me emotional. So, that's the kind of guy he was. Went back to the rib trader and sang more songs, told stories about Corb. Here's a guy that has become a billionaire, and he gives a crap about some guy that kicked off his world.
Corb was the first, essentially, tour manager for him, right? When nobody else would give him a shot. He wasn't famous at the time. Yeah,
nobody knew him.
Right.
Jimmy told me, he says, he goes, first time I was ever paid $5,000 for a show, he goes, I went and smuggled some weed with that money. He goes, I knew this was a fluke and never was going to happen again. So I was going to be really smart and turn that money into money.
Fascinating.
He's one of the smartest people I've ever met.
He would have to have been to build that empire.
His whole, the balls that he was juggling, I could never have done what he did. That's impossible.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the balls that he was juggling, and it seemingly never
affected him.
Acted like he didn't work, actually.
No, he's giggling the whole time.
Yeah. Maybe it just, when I see people like that, I think that they're incredibly good at delegating, like surrounding themselves with people who are smarter than them in a certain thing and letting them run with it, I
think when he gets burned by people, he doesn't carry it on a backpack like I do. Mm. And it's hard to learn how to push those buttons and let the backpack fall off your back. Because when people ruin your life and set you back for years like that, what was done to me is so deep down. It's under the heading of, I love you, man. And then when you get in, they take advantage. They set you up for the kill. And they knowingly do this.
I feel like at a certain level, it's inevitable that somebody will attempt to take advantage of you in that way.
There's no entrepreneurial person that I've ever met that doesn't have a story about that.
Right.
None.
So it's a matter of how you navigate it.
It's who you hire. Who are they and what are they? And what's their history? What's their background?
Yeah.
How many times they go to jail? Okay.
Right.
The guy that burned me he was a drug dealer who was dealing coke and rolled on his friends, and they got 10 years and he got 1 year.
Wow.
That's pretty gnarly.
And then he was working in your shop, presumably?
Yeah.
And you didn't know any of that?
No.
Until money is missing. And
there's a math problem one day.
Yeah.
And then you realize you're broke. And then you realize this guy's bought a house.
It all makes sense. So was he working as an accountant?
No, he manipulated my accountant.
Got it.
He was a front man. He's a shuck and jiver.
Yeah.
And he's charismatic, he's smart, and he's done it to everybody he's ever been in business with.
And now, yeah.
It's a pattern. So be warned. That's why earlier when the conversation we had was, when you go to be an entrepreneurial person, look at what they've done, never listen to what they say. Don't even listen to a single word they have to say. Look at show me your background. What have you
Yeah.
So you're a good surfer, right?
Lifelong intermediate is what I like to say.
How many contests have you won?
None.
That solidifies that you're honest. Okay?
That's true. That did.
That's solidified. Now, if you would have said, yeah, I'm really good. And I go, okay, bring me your portfolio of how many contests you won. Then I'm going to call up, I'm going to research and see if your name's in that contest. Were you there?
Right. Yeah.
So you can claim whatever you want to claim, especially on the internet, the electronic liar.
Yeah. I'm glad I answered honestly there.
That's a new one, electronic liar. Because the false claims that are going around now as the baby boomers age, they're 10 times better than they ever were.
Right.
That's what I've noticed. And now, I'm in the Hall of Fame and the Wall of Fame and all this stuff, right? They're all coming up with, reasons to praise each other. It's out of control.
It's a cultural shift that's happened, because when I was young, and certainly from your era, you weren't allowed to brag.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there was a decorum that was just, you wanted to be understated, let the surfing do the talking or whatever.
Yeah.
And now it's all about,
limelight.
self-promotion.
Limelight.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of that too. It's hard you get caught in it.
Yeah.
People don't know who you are, and you try to, I've done this and I've done that, and look at this and look at that. And that, just being interviewed by you, you look around, it's a lot of stuff, but there's so many genius, amazing people. And the thing is, the history books are being altered. That's what stirred me up, when the false claimers.
Yeah.
And I'm going, wait a minute, dude. And then you confront them, and they, then they shut down. But they post it on their websites.
Yeah. I think some of it is nefarious, and intentionally kind of trying to rewrite the books. But I think also in surfing, there was a lot of things happening in different parts of the world simultaneously.
That's true.
And so from a design standpoint, it could be that, 2 people landed or 5 people landed at a similar design evolution, simply because you were all reading the magazines and you saw Wayne Lynch doing something and you're like, oh shoot. Man,
that was, by the way, that name, that's a fork in the road.
What do you mean?
I'll tell you, when the movie came out, Evolution, and Wayne Lynch did a top turn under the hook, that had never been done. Nobody had ever seen it. Maybe it had been done, but it wasn't filmed.
Right.
And he had that giant wide tail board that just was fast, and he went right under the hook and did that huge top turn. We didn't know you could do that.
Yeah.
I didn't know you had time. We all thought if you went there, you're going to get pitched. Now look what they do.
Right.
They're ignoring, we used to fantasize like guy going down the line and he airs over the peak and he lands on this side and you jump the peak. They've done that.
Now they do full rotations doing
But that was fantasy bullcrap. No,
right.
When you think of that, you don't think it's really going to happen. That's what scares me now. The evolution of mankind in this world scares me a little bit. When you got movies like 1984 or all this, it almost goes from science fiction to reality, and it scares me.
Science fiction couldn't have predicted how sophisticated AI is now, and the face,
just
faking.
now waking up too. The doors just opened.
Crazy, dude.
I love that. I'm a science freak. I love that. Oh God, yeah. I'm a more futuristic thinker. I don't like vintage backpedaling. I want to know what's cool and new for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, totally. Well,
I'm not a historian so much.
Well, despite that, I want to ask you 1 or 2 more mentor questions, because when I walked in, you pointed out that Phil Edwards balsa.
Yeah.
Who is Phil Edwards to you? When did you connect with him? And tell me about him.
So when I was shaping at Hobie's, I met him, and I met him periodically here and there. And then Hobie's shut their whole factory down, and Hobie called me up and said, Bill, would you like to own the Hobie license? And I said, well, let me get back to you, because I was doing really well at the time. And I thought, what do I need Hobie for at this point? Is this a good thing or a bad thing? I was trying to weigh it out. So I called him back and I said, yeah, I actually would like the license. I'll do that. And the reason I agreed to it is because if you have a dealer here and a dealer here, like let's say I can't sell this guy Stewart surfboards and this guy right next door to each other. So I thought, okay, if I have 2 brands, I can push them, this one and this one, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So then I ended up with Herbie Fletcher's boards and and Hobie boards and Mickey Munoz and all these different brands that I was manufacturing. So when they shut the factory down, Phil Edwards was shaping at that factory. So I inherited Phil Edwards in the Hobie deal.
Amazing.
So I got very close to Phil. And Phil really, really, if you called him right now, he likes me a lot. And I'll tell you why. Phil is an eccentric, quiet. He hates anybody that loves him. He hates him. Okay, and what that means is he would tell them to learn to live your own life. That's what he would say to people. If you walk up and shook his hand, hey, Phil Edwards, how you doing? Hey, I'm Bob. Hey, Bob, how are you? Then it's fine. Oh my God, you're Phil. Now, if you go down that road like praising him, he instantly hates you. And I warn people. So they call me up and say, hey, I want to talk to Phil Edwards. And I go, do you know Phil Edwards? He goes, no, I just want to talk to him. And I go, no. I'll take your name and number down, and I'll probably guarantee you will not get a phone call from Phil. And he goes, well, why won't he talk to me? I'm willing to buy a board. And he goes, Phil doesn't care. He doesn't care. And so I was kind of a pit bull protector of Phil for the 12 or 13 years he worked for me. And that's why I have that, my 50th birthday, he shaped that balsa wood board for me as a gift. Pretty cool.
Super cool.
Yeah.
I love that. That was a very telling description of his personality too.
Yeah, it's eccentric.
I like that about him.
He's an interesting cat. And if you met him in the wrong context, you'd think, God, what an asshole, But he's really a cool guy, and his shapes he just would bleed over shaping a surfboard. It took him forever to get one done because he was methodically, and they're 3-stringers, they're a little harder. And he said that he was a creep magnet. And I went, what's a creep magnet? He goes, wherever I go, there's creeps that come out of the woodwork and want to cuddle with me. And I go, what? Really? And he goes, yeah. So we got in the car. We drove down to Cardiff Reef. I talked him into paddle out surfing with me. So we drove down in my van. We wax our boards and we paddle out. Phil goes way out on the outside, and I'm catching a bunch of waves and surfing. And every once in a while, he'd catch a wave. And there's a whole row of cars, where they can all see who's surfing. And so Phil is on the very outside, catches the set wave of the day, and he surfs all the way in, steps off, walks up. We get in the shower, rinse it off. People are getting out of their cars and walking towards him. And they circle him. And they go, you're Phil Edwards. I'm going, oh, no. Here we go. And after that whole scene went on, and that's what he was in reference to, creep magnets. They want to cling to him.
Yeah.
And tall, handsome, physically fit, awesome guy, just he's like a Laird Hamilton specimen. So we get in the van, we start driving away, and he looks at me and he goes, you know what? I think I had fun.
Interesting.
Yeah. Different.
Too intellectual, maybe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Really out there with, but he's just a cool guy. I really have a lot of respect for the guy, and he respected me because I understood him. I didn't play him at all. I didn't try to he got mad at me one time. I said, hey, Phil, I got an idea. I want to have you shape 20 balsa boards for me, and I'll pay you in cash. He goes, 20? What do you want that for? I go, well, I'm going to kill you afterwards. He hated that joke, right? What would his boards be worth if he died?
Yeah, I understand why you didn't like the joke. I'm with Phil on this one.
A little over the line.
I mean,
well,
among friends, who knows?
As a comedian, you kind of throw things.
Yeah, of course.
You got to see if it sticks, right?
Yeah.
It didn't stick.
And he didn't shape the boards,
He
I
grabbed
presume.
it, threw it back in my face.
When was the last surfboard that he shaped?
I'm not sure, because he left me. Hobie took the license back, and he called me up and said, hey, we've decided we want to blow the Hobie surfboards up, right? We're going to make a huge run at it. And I said, well, good luck with that. And so they gave away surfboards and just went crazy trying to rebuild it, and it just went right back down because it didn't have that core image of being by the way, Hobie himself didn't even really love shaping surfboards. I shaped my whole life. Hobie shaped in the balsa wood days. Then the foam came out. He was trying to make molded surfboards. He did not want to hand shape a bunch of boards. That wasn't fun for him.
Yeah.
Really smart guy, really very wealthy, inherited, his family had tons of money, and he was very successful in about everything he did. Made a 60-foot catamaran. He's built all this float cats and, kayaks and all this stuff. But as a surfboard builder, his boards were not a pinnacle surfboard in the industry.
But he scaled that business really beautifully and successfully.
Dick Metz did.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm going to give Dick Metz a bit of credit for that because he's the one that set up all the surf shops, and Dick made a ton of money and was brilliant about how he dealt with that.
Yeah.
I didn't get to know Dick even when I shaped, owned the license, or when I was shaping at the Hobie factory. I was just a work bee. I just went to work. I knew Dick, but I didn't know his history or background. I thought he was just some retail guy. But now that I've heard the history of him, it's way more than you think.
Have you gotten to know him since?
Yeah, a little bit more. I see him here and there.
Right. Does Phil Edwards still surf?
No, he hasn't surfed in 20 years probably.
Okay.
He's old. He's 78 or...
Yeah, I know, but older people still surf too. I don't know if you...
Once you get around 80, you're done.
What does that look like for you? What do you do physically and diet-wise to maintain your girlish figure?
You mean a pregnant girl?
4 months pregnant. Okay, no, I'm not saying full term. I'm saying first trimester.
You just went through that. Come on.
Staying away from the fudge.
Here's the problem with surfing and what happens. Okay, and you're on the summit. In my last pro event, I was 42 years old surfing at San Clemente Pier, and I got in the final, got fourth place. Okay, everybody on the podium was 20 years old. So what this means is there wasn't a row of 40-year-old guys on the podium. It was one. And that was my last contest. And I felt like I could still get close to the final, but I always entered to win. I didn't enter to come in second. So then there's a point where you go, okay, I'm not entering contests. The same thing happens in surfing, because as you climb that ladder, it's really fun to climb that ladder.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you can, I actually did a carving 360 on a shortboard. Okay. How many people have done that? How many people have done airs? How many people have done tail 360s, nose 360s on longboards, all these tricks, right? You learn all that stuff. Well, then you hit this summit, and then you start slipping. Then my hips went bad. I had a hip replacement 18 years ago. I was 54 years old. Is that 18? Yeah. So I couldn't put my legs around a surfboard. I had to lay down and paddle, and then I started getting up slow. And that was the beginning of the decline. And I'm like, ugh. When you go out and you're the best guy in the water, and then you go out and you're a kook, it's a tough pill to swallow. It's hard to go down that ladder.
So you give it up completely?
Pretty much. Well, I just had another hip replacement a year ago. Am I going to make a comeback? I watch these old guys surf, and it bores the crap out of me. If I can't do a figure 8 roundhouse and hang 10 and hit it vertical off the lip, to just slide across water, I'd rather catch an 80-pound tuna.
Really?
Yeah, I'd rather catch an 80-pound tuna.
The thrill is gone.
Yeah, to some degree.
What about stand-up paddling? Where you can, Mickey Munoz as an example.
Yeah, Mickey's a freak, by the way. There's only one Mickey Munoz that ever has been or will be. That guy I love Mickey. He's the funniest cartoon I've ever met. He just lives a life like no one else. But the SUP thing bores. I tried it, and it hurt my hips.
Okay. Because
the board's wobbling the whole time. So here's what happens. I went out I was at the East Cape, and I decided to show off. I paddled out took off on a wave, and I was laying into it. Roundhouse, figure eights, hanging 10, all the way to the sand. It's about 7 or 8 feet. Paddled back out on the second wave, and I thought, I'm going to turn the volume all the way up. I'm doing the red line 11, okay? I'm taking it to 11. And I killed this wave. I literally surfed the best I could surf. I stepped off on the sand. My neck was killing me. My ear was full of water. My hip hurt. And the entire beach stood up and applauded. I don't even know. They don't know I'm Bill Stewart, the surf guy. They just stood up and went, look at that old bastard. He went cuckoo, right? And that was about it for me, because when you paddle your whole life with your neck back like that, your neck is going to start pinching.
Yeah.
And so there's a price you pay for trying to have fun. And so you limp around, your neck hurts for the next couple of days after you ride 3 waves.
Yeah.
Let's weigh that out.
But can't you mitigate that with diet and exercise?
No. Old is old.
Okay.
Pain is pain. Now, you can take a lot of drugs. You can lose a... By the way, Jerry Lopez, I watched... He's probably the fittest, lightest... He's 135 pounds. Doesn't weigh anything. He's been doing yoga his entire life. He was not a full-time surfboard shaper grinding foam all day, every day.
That's a great point.
He did not do that. My shaper, Jeff Matson, who's been with me for 20 years, just got a hip replacement. And Terry Sennett, double hip replacements. Yeah. All these guys. Now, why are all these surfboard shapers getting hip replacements? You're walking like a crab sideways.
Carrying a heavy tool.
And leaning over and doing.
Yeah.
So, anybody want to arm wrestle? Most shapers ride arm from a planer.
Yeah.
You're lifting that planer. It's a tool, and it's heavy. So watching Jerry get up slow on a couple of waves, I went, Father Time's caught him. Now, he pushed it deeper than most. Anybody that walks in that's in their late 60s or 70s that walks in the shorter board area, I go, what do you do for a living? And the guy goes, well, I'm a psychiatrist. And I went, I knew you didn't work with your hands. I knew you didn't carry lumber. You didn't do roofing. Did you ever race motorcycles? No. Did you ever skateboard swimming pools? No. Okay, that's why you're in this condition.
Right.
At this age. If you take care of yourself, if you exercise, keep your weight down and all this.
Yeah, the lightweight, small frame thing is
Big
real.
deal.
Yeah, I mean, for Mickey Munoz being the perfect example of it, longevity is directly related to that.
Yeah.
Interesting. A couple more kind of questions, just general questions in closing. How often did you, through all your surfing, ride other shapers' surfboards?
Not much.
Really?
Alan Byrne, I met him in Japan before he was killed, and he was killed in Bali on a motorcycle, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So he was a cool guy, and he did that channel bottom thing, the real deep channels. Now, that board on a slopey faced wave didn't ride very good. I tried one at Cotton's Point, and it slid out on me. And I was too far forward, and the channels caused it to ride up, and it drifted out on me. And I was like, wow, that's weird. But I rode one at Uluwatu. I did one of the biggest layback off the lips I've ever done in my life. I mean, I'm straight up all the way around, back hit the face of the wave, board swept underneath me, and I pulled up and got barreled, and I'm like, okay, there we go. That board worked.
It's just like teeth in the wave.
That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
Instead of the board flat sliding, it bit. Because if my board would have probably flat slid up, because once you come off the rail, and I was a good rail surfer, some people flat slide their boards quite a bit. They come off the rail too soon. You look at Kelly, he's gouging. He's just digging rail full length. That's the drive that they're getting on these turns. The speed they get is mind-boggling. It's not even... and people go, oh, look how fast this board is. I go, no, Kelly's fast. I always say Carlos Santana, if he walked in Kmart, picked up one of the guitars, it sounded like the greatest guitar ever made.
Right.
That's how good he is.
Yeah.
It's the archer and the arrow, right? That's kind of what it is. But, over the years, I rode Rick James surfboards, and I bought a Hansen surfboard. But initially I was buying boards, and then when you start making them, you get addicted to your craft, you know. The dumbest thing I ever did was funny as hell. You'll love this story. So I said, why does surfboards have to be hard on the deck? I'm going to make a soft deck so it's comfortable and your feet are going to bite into the deck and you won't slide or anything, and no wax, right? This thing's going to be awesome. So I shaped this board and I glassed the bottom. I route the whole deck out. I leave the stringer and I inset foam this deep, boogie board foam. I take Astro Deck and glue it all over top of the whole board. And I razor cut it all out and I go, let's go ride it. I'm jacked, right? Jump out of the car at State Park. I run down, paddle out, and I try. You know what rolling up the windows is? Yeah. Drop in a bottom turn. I went, this. Your feet sunk into the deck. And I went, oh, shit. Nah, that can't be real. Paddle back out. I'm going to go backside on the next one. Drop in and I roll up the windows, fall on my back. I got the board. I put it in my van. I drove to the dump and beat the shit out of it.
Yeah.
I should have kept it.
Well, it'd be an interesting relic, but essentially what you're saying is all the energy that you would normally be pushing into the board for it to transfer into a bottom turn or whatever is just getting absorbed.
It's a delayed reaction.
Yeah, that makes
sense. So as your body leans over like this, right? The board's still flat. It hasn't come up on a rail.
Yeah.
Well, too late. Now
it's funny.
Right?
Yeah, it's funny.
But that goes back to what I said earlier about the people who invent, create, and design things. Those are the people who change the world with this stuff. Now, if you look at Kelly Slater's original boards when he first came out from Florida, he came out with that elf shoe rocker. That was the worst ever.
Totally.
There was no reason for it, and I hated it. And I told people it was stupid.
Yeah. I blame him for why I'm still a lifelong intermediate today.
Kelly, it's all your fault.
I spent the first 10 years riding a surfboard that was unrideable.
Yeah. And
I should have just started on a longboard. I'd be great today. You know what I mean?
Well, by the way, because I'm so famous for longboarding, people don't understand that I was a really, really good shortboarder. And my son-in-law went out and surfed with me and I was on a shortboard. He went, holy shit. He didn't know I could really shortboard good. I tell everybody, there's no reason to ever ride a longboard other than for fun. You should always shortboard. Shortboarding is the greatest surfing in the world, in my opinion. Longboarding is a cool alternative thing at San Onofre on a slow wave and you want to hang 10 and do something different. Then it's kind of fun. Is it better than shortboarding? Hell no. All you got to do is take them all to Uluwatu on a 10-foot day, grinding, and they can't beat sections.
Yeah. If the waves are good.
If the waves are roping top to bottom, yeah, take your 9.0 to Chopu and see how that goes.
Right.
That's kind of...
Is there anybody who you wish that you would have gotten a board from or that you would still like to get a board from?
Not really. No, I can't think of somebody that would have. I have a Phil Edwards balsa board. I'm happy I got that. I'm not a real board collector, even though I look like it in this room. You look around, it looks pretty crazy.
Most of them are yours, though.
Yeah, they all are.
Well, not this parish.
Yeah, that's my airbrush on there.
Oh, so that's yours too.
So yeah, it's funny you brought up his name because you wouldn't ever know that I didn't shape that. It has his name on it, MP.
Yeah,
there it is. That's Mike Parrish. He put MP on his boards.
Oh, I was thinking Tom Parrish.
Oh,
when I said that.
Oh, really? Okay, there's a Parrish problem.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
But all of this, see, there's stories. All the surfboards in this entire room, they all have stories behind them of what they were all about.
I mean, everything in this room.
It would take a long time for you to go through all this.
Yeah, this is a museum.
It is a serious museum. But there's one of the greatest boards I ever made was the Nightstalker. And the Nightstalker, they had 25 of the best California shapers competed. And they gave all of us $600 to make the most fascinating, interesting, unique surfboard ever made. When I showed up with my board, well, Mayhem said he almost threw his board on the floor when he saw mine. It's on the wall over there. It has headlights, tail lights, see-through plexiglass nose, and it's called the Nightstalker, and we rode it at the San Clemente Pier, and it had headlights on it, and it was incredible. It's a little short board, and it was just really cool as hell.
That's so funny.
So, and then I made a rotating pedestal for it to spin on when everybody brought they have them on racks. Mine's rotating with strobe lights on the thing. I did a portrait of Thomas Edison on the bottom of the board. Pretty damn cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I love that board. I wish I could get it back.
Where is it?
What's the guy's name? Fernando from Reef.
Yeah, Fernando Aguirre.
He bought it for $5,250 for a charity.
Okay.
It was a charity event, so they got all the shapers to do that, and
that's cool.
It was fun.
I was asking you about diet and exercise, but one thing, your mental acuity is sharp, seems sharp as a tack, like remembering details from the 60s and the 70s. You're able to pull up people's names and the sound of their arms slapping the countertop. What do you attribute that to? Memory.
I think it's an energy focus of being fascinated by things. You know, if you could look through my eyes and see what I see, when a group of people walk in a room, you ever notice people that you feel like they're on Quaaludes or something, and then you meet somebody else that's just got the eye of the tiger? Mickey Munoz. I told Mickey, I said, dude, if I could get a little shot of Mickey sauce, I would be a billionaire. Because if you took a hit of his sauce and saw through his eyes and had that much teenage stoke, you know, people get old and they get grumpy and they get lazy and they just don't. I'm constantly designing, building, grinding, shaping, painting. I mean, I have an 800 square foot workshop underneath this building where I create stuff, and I've done giant resin tables, and I mean, just so much weird, making a guy a fake hand and all this stuff. I get these ideas, and once I think something, I have to do it. But that excitement about life and inventions, creations, and designs, I think that's why I'm alert. I'm not on Quaaludes. I'm not like, oh, whatever.
Yeah.
Not an alcoholic. I don't smoke weed. I'm still pretty thrilled about life. I think that's Jerry Lopez. That's Mickey Munoz. And you see some people, they just give up. They throw in the towel. There will be a day when you're stuck with big screen television and a recliner. Okay. And you won't know your own name, most likely. My father died a couple of years ago, 92, and my mom died at 90. My mom was losing it a little bit. My dad was sharp as a tack. He was on fire, really, and very current.
So what took him down?
He had a type of cancer, and, you know, I think there's a certain age you get to, you're kind of ready to kick out. You know what I'm saying? And you asked me about surfing. Does surfing make you really, really happy every time you go out? It did. But there's a time, like Phil Edwards quit very young at surfing. He quit early. But a lot of people that don't know Phil and his background, he was the Kelly Slater of the 50s. That's what he was. He was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Yeah, I have his book. So he gave me his book called You Should Have Been Here Yesterday. And it's really cool, signed to me and all that. And there's certain people that maintain this level of hype. And I think you better. Jimmy Buffett's quote was, "Don't let the old man in."
Interesting. Don't
let the old man in. Am I old? No, I'm 17. My body's 100.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was asking you about. You know, I think you summed it up, having your passion for what the things that you're into keeps you up and motivated every day and keeps you moving forward. But I just don't know what to advise to the question is for the listener to kind of take away something. If you have it, you have it. You know what I mean? I don't know that there's anything you could say to somebody else that would inspire them to live that way. I feel like you either have it when you're...
Run towards your interest. Don't lay back and think that it's out of reach. A lot of people, I don't do...
I guess you're right, yeah.
Some people are just curmudgeons, born curmudgeons. They just sit in the mud, and they're spectators. I'm a participator.
Yeah.
I like to participate in everything. I like to be involved,
Yeah.
To watch other people have fun, I was almost stupid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
If you can do it, why aren't you doing it?
Yeah.
But you're right. You're not going to change somebody's temperament.
But then I do think there are some people who radically change their life when they're 40 or 50 or whatever, and they start running marathons and they get fit, and all of a sudden, different person.
Mm-hmm.
How are you spending your retirement?
I shape boards. I paint. I just did a huge painting for a guy's house that was 80 inches by 42 of lower trestles. Stunning painting. I mean, it's one of my favorites. So with painting, and then I go to Mexico and I bring my off-road vehicles. I got a 4-wheel drive van. I have a trailer that I pull the Rhino, my Zodiac, and all that to Baja. And then we go camping, and I just got back from Lake Nacimiento, and then I was out at the river last week. So yeah, my fun meters. Oh, and I play harmonica in live bands in the local restaurants at night. So if you walk around, it'd be hard for you to keep up with me.
Yeah, it sounds like
doing the crap. And now I just painted a giant fence yesterday.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that wasn't fun.
No, I mean, the reason I started laughing is because it sounds exactly like when you were working. You're like, I'm shaping surfboards, I'm painting, I'm doing this.
I don't clean the toilets now. I don't hire and fire. I don't open the doors. I don't have to deal with the personalities of weirdos. And, it's a little sad to see some of the youth that's coming out today. I'm a little concerned with the perspective that people have that you owe me.
Yeah.
My mom told me, you make your bed and you sleep in it. And I've always lived by that. I've never been on unemployment or welfare or any of that kind of crap. I that's too shameful for me. The people standing begging on the side of the road holding up a sign, and the guy's got his arms and legs. I have a friend with no arms. He's married, was a school teacher, and he boogie boarded. He has no arms.
Insane.
How do you do that? If I was him, I'd stop my car and I'd get out and walk up to the guy and go, "What's wrong with you?" Because if you choose to, the drugs now that people are doing are ruining them for life, and they know this. Well, why are they doing this? So I'm looking at it. I thought we were improving. My generation, I thought we were getting better at everything. I thought the whole world. I guess I'm an optimist, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, I have
a definition of it, but I think you're right though. There is a new ills in society that are affecting people. The answer to the homeless guy asking could be, yes, lazy, could also be mental illness that's playing a factor, and it could be both. You know what I mean? And so it's things that, and there's what we were talking about earlier, where there's way less value in that decorum that we were talking about, like
being self-supportive.
Exactly.
If you have to row your own boat. And I pulled up to a guy that looked completely fit, and he talked normal. And I said, "Let me ask you a question." I go, "Your mom, your dad, your aunts, your uncles, and all your friends and everybody you met in school and in your entire life, did you screw them all?" It's a damn good question. Because my friends who were strung out on heroin, they were breaking into houses. They were doing what they had to do to feed the little man on their shoulder.
Right.
But what day do you wake up and say, "Oh God, I feel like meth today"? You know what this does. You know where this, you look at is that what you aspire to be that? You got to set a higher standard of some sort.
Right.
At least make your own bed.
Yeah. In every version of it, there is a certain amount of accountability that one has to take.
Yeah.
That you could have been dealt a very bad hand, but there's other
mental
people
illness is a different issue. That's
is
a whole nother animal. That they used to have One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, the mental institution, which is one of my favorite films. That was a case of there's people with problems that are not resolvable, and they really can't function in society. Well, we got rid of all the mental institutions.
Right.
I think Reagan did that, didn't he?
I'm not sure.
I think it was Reagan that got rid of that. So anyway.
Yeah. It is, but working in retail, to your point, I think you do encounter it directly, dealing with.
Well, I always wanted a IQ detector at the door, so the alarm would go off and it goes, idiot, moron, arrogant prick.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. You said you're still shaping.
Yeah.
Who for?
Oh, who else?
Yeah.
My new boss, my daughter.
Okay.
I designed the board. So Eric Linus, who was a professional snowboarder, my son-in-law, he is not a shaper. He's learning, but it takes a long time. I don't call anybody a shaper until they shape 1,000 boards. If you haven't done 1,000, you're not a shaper.
Yeah.
You're practicing shaping, right? So once you gain control of if I gave you a nose and tail rocker, width and thickness and length, and said, okay, go in my shaping room and do that. Now you got to go pick a blank. I'm not going to help you at all.
Yeah.
Then you pick the templates. And if I told you the nose width, the middle, the tail, the rocker, and everything. And when I flew to Japan, Yoshi told me, Bill-san, surfboards must be perfect. I go, okay, whatever. He gives me all these dimensions, right? I only want you to do 4 boards per day because they must be perfect. And I go, okay. He shows up at the beach, right? I'm in the lawn chair. It's 10:30 in the morning. Bill-san, are you not working today? I'm finished. And he goes, you did 4 boards. And I go, yes. Okay. He jumps in his car and he takes off. He runs down there and he measures them. I go, how were they? And he goes, they're perfect. He goes, you can do 6 tomorrow.
I forgot what I was going to ask you. I asked you who are you shaping boards for now? Oh, you said your daughter. We should close with, where does the Stewart business, where does it go from here, and how is it managed from here on out? I think you referenced it earlier that she and her husband Eric took over the business. So
I gave him everything. And for the people who have businesses and they have kids, I do not recommend you ever give your business to some kids that don't qualify and warrant. In other words, would you hire them if you just met them?
good point.
Would you give them the business? Or is this a gift for poor little Poopsie that doesn't want to work? Okay. My son is a video photographer for rock bands. He lives in Nashville, Tennessee. He had no interest in this. He never learned any of the business. He doesn't shape surfboards. He doesn't do ding repairs. He has his own passion of what he does, right? Ashley was there working and has a love of my accomplishments, the brand, and everything. She's a straight A student. She was in all gifted classes. She's a phenomenal, brilliant, beautiful girl that just is a 10. She married a guy who's a 10. Okay? It's no rocket science to turn it over to somebody that you know they're not going to ruin it. And that's the difference. So I gave him a 20-year buyout and handed him the keys.
Very cool. Stewards of the Stewart label.
That's well said. That's it.
And hopefully it'd be interesting to see if the grandkids show up in the shop and offer to sweep the floors. And
yeah, Emiana, the 14-year-old, is already messing with shaping.
Oh, is she really?
Yeah, she's in there
that
grinding.
Would be incredible.
She's an artist. She's got the art bug.
Yeah.
And she got some dust in her eye, and I busted up laughing. Poppy, why are you laughing? I go, because that's what you get when you shape surfboards.
Yeah.
You get dust in your eye. Well, you learn not to get dust in your eyes. But
you get dust everywhere.
When you're doing it and you're, all of a sudden it's in your face. And so it's so cute to see her in there and stoked on it, like interested in it. But
that's all you can hope for, is for them to express an interest in it. And then hopefully it grows from there.
A lot of families, the business is a bottle rocket and it goes and then dies. And the reason it doesn't, like Coca-Cola, or you look at Harley Davidson, ones that have carried through time, even Hobie started a long time ago. But there's no Hobie Alter. There's no Alter family members own any of Hobie now. The whole thing became a financial war. So when that happens, you got to sell everything. Like this property I'm on, I don't want this to be out of my family.
If you can keep this forever in the family, what a gift.
That's what it's going to be. It's not going nowhere.
Yeah.
Because it's paid for and I own it. And I'm not going to have my son and my daughter sell it in 2 parts and run off with the money.
No.
This is too good.
No, and no matter what that money did for them, it would never do something that's this great.
No.
This location, there's unobstructed everything.
Yeah, it's so unique.
Yeah.
And everybody that comes here and sees it, it's kind of jaw-dropping.
It is.
And it's not because it's the Taj Mahal. It's got such soul. And when I bought the house, I felt really relaxed when I walked up to the door. I got really calm. And I went, what is that? What causes that, right? And they call it feng shui or whatever they want to call it. There's something about the right sizing and the logic of the placement of the house on the property that feels right. And when I bought it, the lady says, I'm not going to sell it to anybody I don't like. And I went, why would you care? And she said, well, it's because I want to have somebody. She didn't want somebody to tear it down and build, a 8-bedroom house on this land. And so she wanted this 1961 house to stay here. And I told her, I said, well, I'm Bill Stewart. I own Stewart Surfboards. She goes, did you put those sunglasses and the big nose and smiles on those palm trees out front? And I'm thinking, ooh, good thing, bad thing, good thing, bad. And I go, yeah, I did that. She goes, that's the cutest thing I've ever seen. And she hugged me when I bought the property, and she said, I prayed for the right guy to come to buy my house, and you are that guy.
Wow.
That's cool.
That's
a cool
blessing,
purchase,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then she goes, would you mind if I come back every year and once in a while and look at what you do? I said, I insist on it. I go, you're crazy not to come. Well, she showed up, and she had cancer and didn't live that much, a few years, maybe 3 or 4 years after that. And she came here and saw what I was doing, because there was no deck. The house was just really basic.
Was this building here?
No, I built this.
Okay.
Yeah, all the deck, everything. I did all this.
Gotcha. Too bad she can't see that fence that's coming to completion this week. Thing's a masterpiece. All right. Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome.
Yeah.